The rain was coming down in wide, cold sheets the evening Nora Cole stood on the wet concrete of a Philadelphia parking lot and grabbed the sleeve of a stranger. She was 6 years old. She had her mother's brown eyes and a red knitted hat pulled tight over her small head. In her other hand she gripped a plastic grocery bag that was too heavy for her, and her lips were pressed together the way children press their lips when they are trying very hard not to cry. The man she had grabbed was on his phone. He was tall, in a charcoal coat, walking fast toward a black SUV with his head slightly down against the rain. He stopped when he felt the tug. He looked down. The little girl looked up. "Mister," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My mama can't walk anymore." He looked past her and saw the woman on the ground near a shopping cart return. She was on her hands and her left knee, one arm stretched toward a bag of groceries that had spilled across the wet asphalt. Her face was turned to the side, her teeth clenched, her eyes squeezed shut. She had on a blue coat and she was shaking, not from the cold but from something deeper and much harder to stop. The man was Ethan Caldwell. He did not know that name yet. He did not know anything about her. He only knew that a little girl in a red hat had stopped him, and that the woman on the ground needed help, and that standing there deciding was not something he was willing to do. He crouched beside Nora. "What is your name?" "Nora." "Nora. I'm going to help your mama right now. Stay close to me." He walked to Brianna, knelt on the wet ground without hesitation, and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I have you," he said. "Can you tell me where the pain is?" Her voice came out in a low, tight breath. "My back. I slipped. I cannot get up." "Then do not try." He looked up at Nora. "Is your car here?" "We took the bus," Nora said. Ethan looked at the woman's face. Her name would come later. Her whole story would come later. Right now he only did the next right thing. He slid one arm under her knees and one behind her back. "This is going to feel strange," he said quietly. "Hold on to me." She wrapped one arm around his neck. Her grip was weak but real. He stood, lifting her as carefully as he could, and carried her through the rain toward his SUV. Nora ran beside him, the grocery bag still in her hand, her red hat bouncing. He got the back door open, set the woman inside on the seat, then turned and lifted Nora in after her. He rounded the car, got behind the wheel and looked in the rearview mirror. The woman's head was leaning against her daughter's small shoulder. Her eyes were open. She looked at him in the mirror with an expression that had no words in it yet, only the raw, stripped-down feeling of someone who had needed help so badly that receiving it felt almost like grief. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was barely there. "Do not thank me yet," he said. "Let me get you to a hospital first." He pulled out of the parking lot in the rain, and the night folded in around the three of them. If a stranger had not stopped that night, what would have happened to Brianna and little Nora? If you have ever felt like no one was coming, you need to read every single word of this story. And if this opening already has your heart, subscribe right now and leave a comment below telling me what you felt when Nora grabbed that sleeve. Your comment might be the one that pushes someone else to keep reading. Brianna Cole had been carrying things alone for so long that she no longer thought of it as carrying. She thought of it as living. She was 29 years old. She had a daughter she loved more than she had words for. She had a one-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood on the northwest side of Philadelphia. She had, until 4 weeks ago, a job she was good at, a licensed physical therapist position at a rehabilitation clinic on Market Street. And then the clinic had restructured, her position had been cut along with 7 others, and she had spent the next 4 weeks sending out applications, stretching her savings, and telling Nora that everything was fine. Everything was not fine. But she got up every morning and she put on her blue coat and she did what needed to be done, because Nora was watching and Nora was counting on her, and that was the only math that mattered. The evening it happened, she had taken the bus to the grocery store 3 blocks from their apartment. Nora had come with her because Brianna could not afford after-school care and her mother, Patrice, had a church board meeting that ran late on Thursdays. The cart was heavy. The rain had started without warning. The asphalt near the cart return was slick with a thin film of water collecting over old oil, and when Brianna pushed the cart in and turned to pick up the bags, her left foot slid. She went down sideways. She tried to catch herself on the cart but it rolled and she landed hard, her lower back taking the edge of a concrete parking barrier. The pain was not like anything she had felt before. It was white and complete and it took every bit of air she had. She knew immediately something was wrong. Not bruised. Wrong. She tried to push herself up and could not. Her legs were there, she could feel them, but her back screamed at every attempt. She managed to get to her hands and one knee but no further. Nora had been right beside her. Her little girl went very still for 1 second, The way children go still when fear becomes too large and they have to choose quickly what to do with it. And then Nora set down the grocery bag she had been holding, walked straight toward a man she did not know, and took his sleeve. The rest, Brianna would think about for the rest of her life. The man's name was Ethan Caldwell. She would not learn that for another hour. What she knew in those first minutes was that he did not hesitate. He did not ask unnecessary questions. He did not stand at a distance or pull out his phone to call someone else to help. He came directly to her, spoke quietly, and treated her with a kind of steadiness that she had not experienced from a stranger in a long time, or maybe ever. When he lifted her, she felt embarrassed. She was not a small woman. She was not the kind of person who let people carry her, in any sense of the word. But the pain left her no choice, and something in the way he held her, carefully and without drama, made the embarrassment smaller than the gratitude. He put her in the back seat of a large, warm SUV. He put Nora in beside her. He got the grocery bag and put it in the trunk. Then he got behind the wheel without asking her whether she wanted to go to the hospital, because it was clear she needed to, and he drove. Nora sat pressed against Brianna's arm. She was not crying. She was watching the man in the front seat with a careful, quiet attention that Brianna recognized as her daughter's way of deciding whether someone was safe. "Where are we going?" Nora asked. "Jefferson Hospital," the man said. "It is close and it is good. Your mama needs a doctor to look at her back. Is she going to be okay? That is what we are going to find out." He glanced in the mirror. "But I think she is going to be okay. She seems strong." Nora considered this. "She is," she said. "She is the strongest person I know." The man in the front seat did not say anything to that. But Brianna saw his jaw shift slightly, the way it does when something lands in a place you did not expect to be touched. At the hospital entrance, he carried Brianna in again, because the wheelchair from the front entrance had not yet arrived and she could not stand. He spoke to the intake staff with a calm, clear authority that moved things forward faster than Brianna had ever seen things move in an emergency room, and she had spent time in emergency rooms as a physical therapist and knew how they worked. He sat in the waiting area while they took Brianna back. He stayed with Nora. When the orderly asked if he was her father, Ethan said simply, "I am a friend." Nora looked up at him from her chair. "You are the man from the parking lot," she said. "Yes," he said. "What is your name?" "Ethan." "Ethan," Nora repeated, trying the word. "My name is Nora Cole. My mama is Brianna Cole. We are from Philadelphia." "I know," he said. "I am from Philadelphia too." Nora thought about this. "Then maybe you are not a stranger," she said. He did not answer that. But the corner of his mouth moved, just slightly, in a way that looked like it might have been the beginning of something. The doctor who came to see Brianna was a small, direct woman named Dr. Anita Morse. She ordered imaging. She reviewed it with the careful expression of someone who knows how to deliver difficult information without letting the difficulty of it make things worse. "You have a herniated disc at L4-L5, she said. "It is pressing on the nerve root. The fall did not cause it. This was already developing, but the impact made it much worse. You are going to need to stay off your feet for the next several days, and you are going to need physical therapy over the next 4 to 6 weeks." Brianna lay on the hospital bed and stared at the ceiling for a moment. "I am a physical therapist," she said. Dr. Morse's expression softened just slightly. "I know. That means you understand exactly what I am telling you." "Yes," Brianna said. "I do. Is there someone at home who can help you?" "My mother. She works during the day but she can be there in the evenings." "And during the day?" Brianna did not answer right away. "We will figure out the care plan before discharge," Dr. Morse said. "You will be with us for at least tonight. Rest now." When she was alone, Brianna let herself feel it. Just for a few minutes. The fear that she did not allow herself to have in front of Nora, or in front of strangers, or in any situation where feeling it would make things harder. She let it sit with her in the quiet of the hospital room, the hum of the lights, the sound of someone else's monitor down the hall. She had no job. She had savings that would last maybe 6 more weeks at a careful stretch. She had a spinal injury that would keep her from working for at least that same length of time. She had a 6-year-old who looked at her like she was the whole world, and she could not let that world fall apart. When she opened her eyes, Ethan Caldwell was standing in the doorway. He knocked on the open door even though she was clearly awake. She noticed that. The knocking. "I wanted to check," he said. "And Nora is asking if you are awake. Bring her in, please." He stepped aside and Nora came in at a half-run, slowing when she got to the bed, and pressed her face against Brianna's arm. "Mama." "I am fine, baby." Brianna kissed the top of her head. I am going to be fine. Nora pulled back and looked at her with those serious brown eyes. You have to rest, she said, with the tone of someone who had heard that phrase delivered many times. I know. I am going to. Nora looked satisfied. She climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed beside her mother and picked up the remote control for the room television, and turned it to a nature channel and settled in. Ethan remained near the door. He had taken off his wet coat. He was in a dark gray suit. He looked like someone who should have been in a meeting or a car service or somewhere with people who wore the same kind of clothes, not in a children's hospital wing with a stranger's family. You do not have to stay, Brianna said. I know, he said. He did not move toward the door. I do not even know your name. Ethan Caldwell. She studied him. And you just happened to be in that parking lot. I was picking up something from the store. I was about to leave. But you did not. No. Thank you, she said again. This time it came out fuller. He received it without brushing it away or making it smaller, which she appreciated more than she could say. Is there family we can call? He asked. Someone who can come for Nora tonight? My mother. Patrice Cole. Her number is in my phone. She paused. Which is somewhere in my coat pocket. He found the coat on the hook near the door, found the phone without looking through it and held it out to her. She called her mother. Patrice arrived 45 minutes later, already in her good coat from the board meeting, her voice tight with worry, her hands busy with hugging Nora and then Brianna and then adjusting everything in the room that could be adjusted. When she saw Ethan standing near the wall, she stopped. Who is this? She asked. He helped us, Nora said from her spot on the bed. In the parking lot. He carried Mama. Patrice looked at him for a long moment. Her expression was hard to read, which was the expression she wore when she was reading someone carefully. Patrice Cole, she said, extending her hand. Ethan Caldwell, he said and shook it. You carried my daughter. She needed carrying. Patrice nodded once. It was the kind of nod that meant the person had passed a test they did not know they were taking. He left shortly after, quietly, without making a production of it. But before he went, he stopped at the door and looked back at Brianna. I am going to leave my card with the nursing desk, he said. In case you need anything. She wanted to say she would not need it. She almost said it out of habit. But she stopped herself, because she had made a quiet decision in the last few minutes, lying in that hospital bed, that she was going to stop refusing help that was genuinely offered. Okay, she said. Thank you, Ethan. He nodded. He left. Patrice watched the empty doorway for a second. Then she turned to Brianna. That is a good man, she said. I do not know him, Brianna said. I know, said Patrice. But I can tell. Brianna was kept for 2 nights. By the time Dr. Morse came to discuss discharge on the 3rd morning, Brianna already knew what the problem was. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building with no elevator. The stairs were the only way in and out. In her current condition she could not manage them. Even with Patrice helping, even with a cane, the risk of falling again was too high. Dr. Morse said it clearly, Brianna could not go home. Patrice's apartment was small, a 1-bedroom she had lived in for 15 years, already full with her things and her routines. She would have made it work without complaint. Brianna knew that. But it was also 40 minutes by bus from Nora's school, and Brianna's follow-up appointments were all on the west side, and the logistics were tangled in ways that would have made everything harder. She was sitting with this when Felicia Burns came in. Felicia was Ethan's assistant. She was a woman in her mid-40s with sharp eyes and a warm smile, and she arrived at Brianna's room at 10 in the morning with a small bouquet of white flowers and a card. From Mr. Caldwell, she said. He asked me to bring these and to ask how you are doing. He would have come himself, but he has been in back-to-back calls since 7. Brianna opened the card. It was brief. I hope you are recovering. If there is anything you need, please use the number on the back. I mean that simply and without any expectation attached. You see. She turned the card over. There was a phone number. He checks in about you, Felicia said straightforwardly, with no effort to make it seem like less than it was. He asked about your discharge plan this morning. Brianna looked at her. He does not know me. No, Felicia said. But that is not the kind of thing that stops him when he thinks he can help. Brianna sat with that for a moment. Then she asked, what does he do exactly? He runs Caldwell Medical Group. We operate 14 rehabilitation and wellness centers across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. He built the company after his wife passed. She was ill for 2 years. He saw things in the medical care system that he wanted to fix, and he went and fixed them. Brianna was quiet. He is a good man, Felicia said. I have worked for him for 9 years. He is not always easy, but he is always fair. And he is kind when it counts. There was a knock at the open door. Ethan was there. He had come after all. He looked at Felicia, who gave him a small nod, and then at Brianna. I got out of the last call early, he said. How are you feeling? Better than 2 nights ago, she said. Not great. What is the plan for discharge? She told him. She told him about the stairs and the apartment and Patrice's small place, and the logistics that were making everything difficult. She told him because he had asked directly and because she was too tired to be evasive and because something about him made directness feel safe. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, I have a guest suite on the ground floor of my house. It has its own bathroom and a sitting area. There is a room next to it that Nora could have. The kitchen is fully accessible and my housekeeper comes 3 times a week. You could stay there while you recover. Brianna looked at him. I know how that sounds, he said. You do not know me. I understand if it is too much. But I want to say it clearly because you are going to go through some kind of complicated reasoning about whether you should accept help from a stranger, and I want you to know that my only reason for offering is that I have the space and you need it. Nothing else. She looked at him for a long time. Nora, who was sitting in the chair near the window coloring in a book that Patrice had brought, looked up and said, I like the idea, Mama. You have heard nothing about it, Brianna said. You said the stairs were the problem, Nora said. And he said there are no stairs. That solves the problem. Ethan's expression did something that was almost a smile. Brianna felt tears come, which she had not expected. She blinked them back. I would insist on paying you something, she said. Whatever is reasonable. You can talk to me about that when you are recovered, he said. For now, just say yes or no. She looked at her daughter, who was watching her with those steady brown eyes. Yes, Brianna said. Thank you. We accept. The house was large and quiet and full of light. Ethan lived in a brick colonial on a wide tree-lined street in Chestnut Hill. The guest suite was exactly as he had described, ground floor, its own bathroom, a sitting room with a soft gray couch and tall windows that looked out onto the back garden. The adjoining room had a twin bed with a green comforter and a small bookshelf that Felicia had stocked with children's books before they arrived. Brianna stood in the doorway of the suite the first evening and felt something she had not felt in a long time. She was not sure what to call it. Not comfort exactly. Something closer to stillness. Nora walked straight to the bookshelf in her room, pulled out 2 books and sat on the floor to look at them as if she had lived there always. Brianna watched her and thought that children are braver than people give them credit for. Ethan's housekeeper was a woman named Mrs. Hart, 60ish, practical and warm. She had left dinner on the stove, a simple chicken and rice that smelled like something from a place where people cared about you. There was a note on the counter that said to leave dishes in the rack. Ethan ate dinner with them that first night. He sat across from Nora at the kitchen table and she asked him questions the way children ask questions, directly and without apologizing for it. Why is your house so big if only you live in it? It was the right size when I bought it, he said. Who else was here? Pause. Just a small one. My wife. She passed away a few years ago. Nora received this with the careful respect that some children have around serious things. I am sorry, she said in a tone that was simple and genuine. Thank you, he said. Were you sad for a long time? Nora, Brianna said. It is okay, Ethan said. He looked at Nora. Yes. For a long time. Are you still sad? He thought about this. Sometimes. But mostly now I just remember the good things. Nora nodded like this made sense to her. That is what Mama says to do too. When we miss things that are gone, we remember the good parts. He looked across the table at Brianna then, briefly, and she met his eyes, and they both looked away at almost the same time. After dinner, Brianna sat on the gray couch in her suite with her feet up, following the exercises Dr. Morse had cleared her to do. Ethan came to the doorway to say goodnight and found her mid-stretch, focused, working carefully through each movement. Therapist healing herself, he said. Trying to, she said. Do you need anything for tonight? No. You have thought of everything. Felicia thought of everything. I just said yes to her suggestions. That is a kind of thinking, Brianna said. He looked at her for a moment. Good night, Brianna. Good night, Ethan. And thank you again. I'm going to stop saying it so much when it starts to feel repetitive. Say it as many times as you need to, he said. I do not find it repetitive. He turned and walked down the hall, and she listened to his footsteps quiet as he moved away, and she sat in the still light of the suite and let herself breathe. The days that followed had a rhythm to them that Brianna had not planned but found she needed. Mornings were slow. She could not move quickly and she had stopped fighting that. She ate breakfast at the kitchen table while Ethan got Nora ready for school and drove her, which he began doing on the second day without being asked, simply because his route to the office passed her school. Brianna noticed these things. She noticed all of them. The way he filled Nora's water bottle before she left. The way he knocked before entering any room. The way he never made her feel like a burden even though she was, by any objective measure, disrupting his life. She began physical therapy at the Caldwell Center on Broad Street. The irony of it was not lost on her. She was recovering at a facility that belonged to the man whose house she was sleeping in. But the staff were excellent and the care was thorough and she made progress faster than she expected, which she knew was partly the quality of the facility and partly the fact that she was a physical therapist and knew exactly how to do this. In the evenings, Ethan was usually home by 7. He worked long hours but he was deliberate about where he was when he was home. He did not bring the office into the kitchen. He sat with them. He listened. He asked Nora about her day and listened to the answers, which were detailed and meandering and always involved at least one tangent about animals. One evening about a week in, Brianna watched Nora teach Ethan how to play a card game she had invented, which had rules that changed every 2 minutes. He did not cheat to let her win. He played seriously and lost genuinely and Nora was delighted. Something settled in Brianna's chest that evening. She could not ignore it. She was not sure she wanted to. 12 days into staying at Ethan's house, Brianna could not sleep. She sat in the sitting room of the guest suite at 11 at night with a cup of tea she had made in the kitchen, her feet on the floor, a yellow blanket over her lap. She was doing the math again. She did the math most nights. It was not a useful habit but she could not stop it. 6 weeks of savings, maybe 7 at the current pace. Insurance would cover some of the medical costs but not all. Her physical therapy was being handled through Ethan's facility at no charge to her, which she had tried to refuse and he had declined to allow her to refuse, pointing out that it was medically necessary and that he owned the facility and could make that decision. She had accepted it, with real and unguarded gratitude, because turning it down would have been pride dressed up as principle. But the job. That was the part that kept her awake. She could not return to the physical work of a clinic for at least 3 more weeks, and even then she would need a position that allowed modified duties at first. And her applications before the injury had come back as mostly silence. She heard footsteps in the hall. Soft ones. And then a light knock. "It is late," Ethan said from the doorway. He was in a dark blue sweater and looked like someone who had also not been sleeping. "I saw the light. I'm sorry. I did not mean to disturb you." "You did not." He stayed at the door. "May I come in?" "Yes." He came in and sat in the armchair across from her. He did not ask immediately. He looked at her for a moment the way he had a habit of doing, directly but without pressure. "You are doing the math," he said. She blinked. "What?" "The financial math. I can see it in your face. It is the same look you had at the hospital when the doctor was talking about your discharge timeline." She laughed, softly and without expecting to. "Is it that obvious?" "To someone who does the same kind of math, yes." She set down her tea. "I was laid off 4 weeks before the injury. I have savings but they will not hold. I cannot return to hands-on therapy work for at least 3 more weeks. My applications have been quiet." She paused. "I am doing everything right and it is still not enough and I do not know how to fix that." "What is your specialty?" he asked. "Spinal and neurological rehab. But I have also spent the last 2 years building a patient wellness curriculum. Education and prevention work. I loved that part." He was quiet for a moment. "Tell me about the curriculum," he said. She told him. She talked for 20 minutes. She talked about the way patients come to physical therapy with fear, and how the first job before the physical work is teaching them to understand their own bodies. She talked about the group sessions she had run, the progress charts, the follow-up program she had designed that reduced re-injury rates. She talked about it the way people talk about things they are genuinely good at. He listened the whole time. When she finished, he said, "Caldwell Medical Group's Wellness Division has been trying to build a patient education program for 2 years. We have consultants who do not understand clinical work and clinicians who do not understand program design. What you just described is exactly what we need." Brianna went still. "I am not offering you anything out of sympathy," he said. "I want to be clear about that. I am telling you that the thing you are good at is the thing we are missing. Whether you choose to talk to our director about a consulting role is entirely up to you. But I think it is worth a conversation." She looked at him. "You really mean that?" "I really mean it." "All right," she said. "I would like that conversation." He nodded. "I will set it up for next week." He stood. Go to sleep, Brianna. The math will still be there in the morning, but it is going to look different. She watched him walk back toward the door. Ethan. He stopped. I mean it when I say thank you. I want you to know that. He turned back to look at her, and something in his expression was quiet and real in a way that had nothing practiced about it. I know you do, he said. Good night. The meeting with the wellness director was on a Tuesday morning. Brianna wore her burgundy blazer over a white blouse and walked into the Caldwell corporate office on Walnut Street with a cane on her left side and her resume and program materials in a leather folder. She had prepared the way she prepared for everything, completely and without shortcuts. The director was a man named Carl who had been trying to solve the patient education problem for 18 months. Within 15 minutes of talking to Brianna, he was asking when she could start. She started the following Monday, working remotely from the guest suite while she continued her physical recovery. The work was the right kind of hard. It asked her brain to do the thing it did best, and it gave her structure, and it gave her income, and it made the math look exactly the way Ethan had said it would. She sent him a text message that Monday evening. I started today. Was good. Thank you. He replied, I know. Carl has already sent me 2 messages about you. Both were impressed. She smiled at her phone in a way she had not planned. They had fallen into a comfortable evening rhythm by then. Dinner together most nights. Conversation that started about Nora's school day and moved gradually into other things. His company's expansion. Her philosophy about patient care. Books they had each read. Places they had been. He was not easy to know. He was not the kind of person who opened up quickly or offered more than he had to. But he was consistent and he was honest, and she found that those 2 things were more valuable to her than ease. One evening she asked him why he had chosen rehabilitation specifically. Not just hospitals or general medicine but rehab. He was quiet for a moment. He was looking at the table. My wife was ill for 2 years, he said. She went through multiple care transitions. And I watched the way the system handled recovery, not the acute illness, but the long work of getting someone back to themselves. I saw how poorly it was often done. How patients were left to figure it out alone. How little attention was paid to the person behind the diagnosis. He paused. I wanted to build something that paid attention. You did, she said. Your facilities are some of the best I have seen. We are getting better, he said. Programs like yours will make it better. She studied him across the table. He had his hands around his coffee cup and he was looking somewhere in the middle distance. He looked like someone who had built something out of grief and was still, sometimes, surprised that it stood. She would be proud, Brianna said. He looked at her then. It was a direct look. You did not know her, he said. But he did not say it with any sharpness. No, she said. But I know what you built. And I know that you do not build something like that out of nothing. He held her gaze for a long moment. Then he looked back at his coffee. She would have liked you, he said quietly. She liked people who were direct. Brianna did not say anything to that. But something between them changed, in the way things change when a truth gets said out loud that had been quietly true for a while. Nora, who had been in the other room, came in at that moment asking for her bedtime snack, and the evening continued and nothing was said about the moment. But it stayed the way real moments stay in both of them. Greg Owens had worked for Ethan Caldwell for 6 years. He was the CFO of Caldwell Medical Group, a man in his late 40s with a careful smile and an impressive portfolio of excuses for why the numbers in the Eastern Division were always slightly soft. He was the kind of person who was very good at making other people feel like problems while ensuring that his own problems stayed invisible. He had noticed Brianna. Not in the way that made anyone uncomfortable on the surface. He noticed her the way a person notices a variable that is changing the equation. She had come from nowhere, from a parking lot, into the house of the CEO, and then into a consulting role that had bypassed the normal hiring pipeline. She was now in meetings he was not in. She was sending Carl reports that Ethan was reading. And Ethan, who had been predictable and contained and manageable for years, was different now. There was something different about him. Greg did not like variables he could not control. He started with small things. A comment in a leadership meeting, framed as a question, about whether it was appropriate for the CEO's house guest to be working on company programs without going through HR. A mention to one of the board members he cultivated, that Ethan's personal life had become complicated. A forwarded email to a business reporter at a Philadelphia news site, anonymously, suggesting that Caldwell Medical Group CEO was making hiring decisions based on personal relationships. The story ran on a Wednesday. Brianna found out when Felicia called her at 9 in the morning, her voice careful and direct. There is an article, she said. It is not kind. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Brianna read it. It was 3 paragraphs, not long but pointed. It did not use her name. It referred to a woman who had been given a consulting contract through a personal connection to the CEO, bypassing standard process. It implied favoritism. It raised questions about the company's governance. She sat with it for a moment. Then she called Ethan. I saw it, he said before she spoke. His voice was even, but she could hear something underneath it that was not quite anger. It was more like cold clarity. It is not accurate and it is not going to stand. I need you to know that. I need to know who sent it, she said. So do I. Pause. Tom Bradley is already on it. Tom Bradley was Ethan's lawyer. She had met him once, briefly, and he had the look of someone who was very good at finding things. Ethan, she said. If this is going to be a problem for the company, I can step back from the consulting role while you deal with it. No, he said. It was immediate and firm. You earned that role. Carl will tell anyone who asks. I am not removing you because someone decided to throw a match. She felt the steadiness in his voice and held on to it. Okay, she said. I will be home by 6, he said. We will talk then. She spent the rest of the day working. She did not let the article stop her. She had 2 sessions with the curriculum team and she showed up to both of them fully. When she picked up Nora from school that afternoon, Nora looked at her face and said, What happened? Something at work, Brianna said. Is it going to be okay? Yes, Brianna said. It is going to be okay. You always say that, Nora said. Because it is always true, Brianna said. Eventually. Nora took her hand and held it, which was the thing Nora did when she knew someone needed holding. Ethan came home at 6:15. He had a look on his face that Brianna was beginning to recognize, the concentrated, forward-pointing focus of someone who has spent the day managing things that required care and precision. But when he saw Nora at the kitchen table doing her homework, the focus shifted. It went softer. He sat down beside her and looked at what she was working on and asked a question about it. After Nora went to bed, Ethan and Brianna sat on the back porch with mugs of tea. It was cool but not cold. The garden lights were on, casting white light across the shrubs and the slate path. Tom thinks he knows who sent the email, Ethan said. Who? Greg Owens. Brianna thought back. She had met Greg once in a hallway and had not liked the quality of his attention. There was something careful and calculating about him that she had noticed and filed away. Why? She asked. Tom is still building the picture. But we have been doing a quiet audit of the Eastern Division for the last 2 months. Numbers that did not add up. It started before you came into the picture. He paused. Greg may have used this story to create noise. To make the company look at me instead of at him. Distraction, she said. Yes. She turned her mug in her hands. What happens now? Tom finishes. The board is being informed. If the numbers say what I think they say, Greg will be removed and referred to the DA's office. He looked at her. The article will be addressed. I am not going to let it follow you. Ethan. She looked at him. I want to say something and I need you to receive it without immediately fixing it. He looked at her. He nodded. The last several weeks have been the hardest of my adult life, she said. And also the strangest, because in the middle of all of it, in someone else's house, in a situation I never asked for, I have felt more seen than I have felt in a long time. And I think you should know that. He was quiet. He was looking at the garden. I do not say it because of what you have done for me, she continued. I say it because of who you are when you do it. Those are different things. He put his mug down on the arm of the chair. He looked at his hands. I built walls after Diane passed, he said. I told myself they were practical. I had a company to run. A grief to manage. I did not have room for anything else. He paused. I did not think I wanted room. And now, she asked quietly. He turned and looked at her. Now I think the room was always there. I just chose not to use it. The garden lights hummed softly. Somewhere in the house, a clock ticked. Brianna reached across the space between the chairs and put her hand over his. He turned his hand and held it steadily the way he did everything. Neither of them said anything else for a while. They did not need to. Now let me ask you something and I want you to sit with it. If Ethan had walked past Nora in that parking lot, if he had not stopped, where would Brianna and Nora be tonight? Sometimes the smallest choice to stop and help changes everything. If this story is reaching something in you, subscribe before the next chapter because the final 2 chapters are where everything breaks open and then comes back together in a way you will not see coming. Tom Bradley delivered his findings on a Friday morning. He came to Ethan's office at 8:30 with 2 printed reports and a calm, thorough presentation that took 45 minutes. Felicia sat in. The board chair, a woman named Patricia Sands, joined by phone. The Eastern Division numbers showed $2.3 million in funds redirected through a series of vendor invoices that were not linked to any actual services. The vendors traced back to 2 shell companies. The shell companies had connections to Greg Owens through a third party that had taken some work to find, but which Tom had found. Greg had been moving money for at least 14 months. The article he had planted about Brianna had gone out the day before Tom was scheduled to present the first audit findings to Ethan. The timing was not a coincidence. He wanted the company focused on a personnel scandal, Tom said. Not on the financials. Patricia Sands from the phone line said, "How do we proceed?" "Law enforcement is the next step," Tom said. "I have already been in contact with the DA's office. They are prepared to receive the documentation." Ethan looked at the numbers. He was still. "Do it," he said. Greg was contacted by Tom that afternoon and informed that his employment was terminated and that the documentation was being turned over. He did not take it calmly. There was a phone call to Ethan that Ethan did not take. There were messages to 2 board members that went unanswered. By the following Monday, Greg Owens had been formally referred to the district attorney, and within 3 weeks he was charged. The article about Brianna was addressed publicly. Ethan issued a statement that was factual and direct, clarifying that Brianna Cole had been engaged as a consultant based on a recommendation from the company's wellness director, that she had been vetted through HR, and that her work to date had produced results that spoke for themselves. He included Carl's assessment. He included 2 months of program metrics. The story disappeared the way planted stories disappear when the facts are laid out plainly. Brianna read the statement on a Thursday afternoon. She was in the guest suite, her second to last week of formal recovery, walking without the cane now for short distances. Felicia had sent the link without comment. She texted Ethan, "I saw the statement. You did not have to do that." He replied, "Yes, I did." Then, "Carl would also like to know if you are ready to discuss a full-time position." She sat for a long moment with the phone in her hand. A full-time position at Caldwell Medical Group. In the wellness division. Doing the work she loved, in a setting that had the resources to do it properly, for a company whose values she had seen up close and trusted. She typed back, "Tell Carl I am ready when he is." She put the phone down and looked out the window at the garden, where Nora was outside with Mrs. Hart, picking something out of the herb bed. Dr. Morse had called that morning. The imaging from Brianna's last appointment showed that the disc was stabilizing well. She could return to full daily activity over the next 2 weeks, with continued moderate exercise and monthly check-ins for the next quarter. The formal recovery was ending. She had come to this house with nothing but an injury and a daughter and the kind of fear that hides behind the face of someone trying to hold it together. And she was leaving it, when the time came, with a job and her health and something she had not named yet but felt clearly. She was going to have to think about what that meant. The last evening before Brianna moved back to her apartment was a Saturday. She had found a different apartment, ground floor, 2 bedrooms, a short bus ride from Nora's school. The lease started Sunday. Patrice was coming the next morning to help. Moving boxes were already in the corner of the guest suite. Ethan had offered movers. She had accepted without a fight, which Felicia had said was growth. That Saturday evening Mrs. Hart made a real dinner: roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans with slivered almonds, a chocolate cake with blue frosting that Nora had requested specifically. They sat at the table, the 4 of them, and it was ordinary and warm and full of the kind of noise that a table with a child at it always has. After dinner, Nora went to her room to pack her things, which she had been doing with great seriousness for 2 days. Ethan and Brianna did the dishes together, which was something they had started doing in the 3rd week and had not stopped. "I am going to miss this kitchen," she said. "You can visit the kitchen," he said. She looked at him. He was drying a plate with a white towel and looking at the plate with more concentration than a dry plate required. "Ethan." "Yes." "What are we doing?" He put the plate down. He turned to look at her. "I think we are doing the thing where 2 people have spent several weeks realizing they do not want the other one to leave, and neither one has said it plainly yet." She looked at him for a moment. Then she said, "So say it plainly." He set the towel on the counter. "I do not want you to leave. And by that I mean I do not want to go back to seeing you only at work and occasionally. I want more than that. I want mornings and dinners and Nora's card games with the changing rules and you working at the kitchen table and all of it." He paused. "I am saying this carefully because I know there is a right way to say it and I want to get it right." "You got it right," she said softly. They were standing close. She reached up and put her hand against his jaw, and he closed his eyes for a moment, the way someone does when they receive something they have been waiting for. "I want that too," she said. "All of it." He opened his eyes and looked at her, and the guard that she had watched him carry for weeks, the careful distance, the walls he had described on the back porch, was gone. He looked like himself. Just himself. "Okay," he said. "Okay," she said. From the hallway there came the sound of small, fast footsteps, and then Nora appeared in the kitchen doorway in her pajamas with a stuffed elephant under one arm. "I have a question," she announced. They both looked at her. "Are you going to come visit us at the new apartment?" she asked, looking at Ethan. "Yes," he said. "A lot." "Yes." Nora considered this. "Good." She looked at her mother. "I like him. Just so you know, I approved." Brianna pressed her lips together to keep from laughing. "Thank you, Nora. That is very helpful." "I know." Nora turned to go back to her room. Then she stopped. "Ethan?" "Yes. You can call me Kid if you want. Some people do. I do not mind." He looked at her, this small person who had stopped him in a parking lot in the rain and changed everything. "Okay, Kid," he said. Nora grinned and disappeared down the hall. He looked at Brianna. She looked at him. The kitchen was warm and the lights were white and clean and the chocolate cake was still on the counter, and neither of them moved for a moment, just standing in the good, ordinary, extraordinary fact of what had found them. 3 months later, on a Sunday afternoon in November, Ethan came to the new apartment for dinner the way he came every Sunday now. He had a bag with ingredients for the pasta dish that Nora had decided was her favorite. He let himself in with the spare key that Brianna had given him 2 months earlier. Nora was at the table doing a puzzle. She did not look up. "Hi," she said. "Hi, Kid." Brianna came in from the back room and he crossed to her and kissed her on the cheek, which was what he did now, easily and without ceremony. "Patrice is coming at 5, she said. "Good," he said. "I like your mother. She likes you too. She told me you were a good man the night she met you." He was taking things out of the bag. "She barely knew me." "She could tell," Brianna said. After dinner, after Patrice had gone and Nora was in her room reading, Ethan sat across from Brianna at the table. He had something in his jacket pocket and he had been aware of it all evening in the way you are aware of something that has weight. He took it out. It was a small box. Brianna went very still. "I was going to do this somewhere special," he said. "And then I thought about where I feel most like myself lately, and it is here at this table with you. So." He opened the box. There was a ring inside, a simple band with a single round stone, clean and bright. "I am not asking you to make anything complicated. I am asking you to let me be part of your life and Nora's life, in the realest way I can. Because what I found in that parking lot, all of it, is the best thing that has happened to me in a long time. And I want to keep it." He reached across the table and held the box out to her. From the hallway, very quietly, came the sound of a small person who was definitely supposed to be reading. "Say yes, Mama," Nora whispered. Brianna laughed, full and real, the kind of laugh that is also something close to joy. "Yes," she said. "Yes, Ethan. Yes." He put the ring on her finger. Nora came out of the hallway at a near run and climbed into the chair between them and put her small arms around both of them at once, as far as they reached. Ethan looked at Brianna over the top of Nora's head. She looked back at him. In a parking lot in the rain, a little girl had grabbed a stranger's sleeve. And kindness had led, the way it always does when it is real, straight to love.